mask that psychology missed. They say narcissists crave attention, but what if the most dangerous kind hides behind empathy? For decades, psychology has painted narcissism with one brush: loud, arrogant, male. The spotlight was on power, status, and control. But behind that spotlight, another figure stood quietly, charming, soft-spoken, and emotionally magnetic. A figure who doesn't boast. She bleeds sympathy. And that's exactly how she hides. When the DSM-5 declared that 75% of narcissistic personality disorder cases were male, psychologists assumed it was a male disease. They built their theories around the loudest voices, men who demanded admiration, who broke others to feel powerful. But what about the women who did it silently? The ones who didn't shout for control, but cried for it. For years, they were misread, mislabeled, misunderstood. Their manipulation looked like care. Their control looked like love. And psychology called it something else. What if we've been diagnosing the wrong disorder all along? Because maybe the most destructive narcissist isn't the one who screams, but the one who whispers, "I'm just trying to help." The misdiagnosis, why psychology got it wrong. Here's the truth psychology didn't want to face. Narcissism was defined by men, studying men. From Freud to modern psychiatry, the entire framework of narcissism was built on masculine traits: dominance, confidence, aggression, entitlement. So when researchers created the Narcissistic Personality Inventory, NPI, and the DSM criteria, they were unknowingly measuring masculinity, not narcissism itself. That's why men scored higher, and that's why women disappeared from the data. Female narcissism doesn't fit that mold. She doesn't flaunt power, she feigns weakness. She doesn't intimidate, she influences. Her tools aren't dominance and rage. They're guilt, empathy, and emotional chaos. Yet every diagnostic checklist rewards visibility. If you don't boast, if you don't dominate, if you don't rage, you don't qualify. So when a woman shows emotional intensity, hypersensitivity, or obsession with relationships, the label shifts. She's called borderline. She's called codependent, but rarely ever narcissistic. Psychology confused expression with essence. It assumed narcissism had to look loud and missed the ones who manipulate quietly. The truth: female narcissism wears a mask of care. She mirrors emotions to earn trust. She uses tears as armor and vulnerability as leverage, and the world calls it compassion. But inside, it's the same engine that drives every narcissist, the fragile self that must be protected at any cost. Only her battlefield isn't dominance, it's emotion. And that's why, for decades, she's been invisible, even to the people trained to see her. The hidden face, vulnerable versus grandiose narcissism. When most people picture a narcissist, they see grandiosity, the loud, confident, controlling figure, hungry for admiration, obsessed with power. That's the classic male archetype, the narcissist type. But the female narcissist plays a different role in this psychological story. If he's Narcissus, she's Echo. And Echo doesn't shout. She reflects. Grandiose narcissism demands attention through dominance. Vulnerable narcissism earns attention through emotion. It hides in softness, in sympathy, in tears that look real but serve a deeper purpose. Where the grandiose narcissist says, "Worship me," the vulnerable one whispers, "Save me." Her charm is her camouflage. She reads emotions like a radar, sensing insecurity, fear, guilt, and uses them as currency. Every sigh, every story, every tear is designed to bind others to her emotional world. And once you're inside it, you can't tell if you're helping her or being drained by her. Psychologists describe this as covert narcissism, a quieter, more emotionally reactive form of the disorder. Instead of dominance, it thrives on victimhood. Instead of bragging, it manipulates through neediness. And yet, the internal psychology is the same. An unstable self-image swinging between "I'm worthless" and "I deserve everything." Here's the paradox. She appears fragile, but she controls through fragility. She looks compassionate, but her empathy has a motive. She builds connection not to share emotion, but to control it. In psychological terms, this is self-regulation through others. The constant attempt to repair inner emptiness by pulling emotional energy from the people around her. To her, attention isn't affection, it's oxygen, and the more emotional chaos she creates, the more alive she feels. The psychological mechanism: shame, validation, and control. At the core of female narcissism is one emotion that never dies: shame. It's buried deep, masked by charm, hidden under empathy, but it drives everything. From childhood, many of these women learned one rule: love is conditional. To be seen, they had to perform. To be perfect, to please, to adapt. Every smile was a defense. Every tear was a weapon that kept them safe. That's where the pattern begins. Validation becomes oxygen, affection becomes control, and relationships turn into mirrors, not for love, but for survival. Psychologically, this is what researchers call self-regulatory narcissism. The constant cycle of emotional dependency and manipulation used to maintain a fragile sense of self. When others praise her, she feels powerful. When they criticize her, she collapses. And in that collapse, something darker takes over. The instinct to regain control at any cost. That's when the emotional games begin. Guilt trips, silent treatments, sudden bursts of affection that feel real, until they vanish without warning. Every action is designed to restore balance in her favor. She doesn't dominate through force. She dominates through emotion, through confusion, pity, and chaos. This isn't confidence. It's crisis management. A lifelong attempt to fix the wound of shame by controlling how others feel. The same way a drowning person grabs for anything, she grabs for you. The tragedy? She believes this is love. She believes control means safety. And because her sense of self depends on how others respond, she can never stop. That's the loop. Shame, validation, control, more shame. A psychological treadmill that never ends. And the more intelligent and emotionally aware she is, the more sophisticated her manipulation becomes. Because in her world, emotion isn't connection, it's currency. Why female narcissism is so hard to spot. If male narcissism burns like fire, female narcissism spreads like smoke. You don't see it until you're already choking on it. Psychology missed it for one reason. It doesn't look dangerous. It looks emotional. It looks selfless. It looks like care. Society has trained women to be nurturing, empathetic, and self-sacrificing. So when a woman uses those same traits to control others, it hides in plain sight. A female narcissist doesn't need to raise her voice to dominate. She can own a room with silence. She can crush someone's confidence with one tear and the words, "After everything I've done for you." Her power is emotional, invisible, but absolute. And because her manipulation looks like love, people defend her, even therapists. Clinical bias plays a huge role. When a man explodes, it's called narcissism. When a woman breaks down, it's called trauma. So instead of seeing manipulation, psychologists see pain. Instead of diagnosing narcissism, they write borderline personality disorder. The difference sounds small, but it changes everything. It means her victims never get clarity. It means her tactics get sympathy instead of accountability. The female narcissist thrives in this confusion. She plays both sides, victim and villain, perfectly balanced. When confronted, she cries. When pitied, she strikes. She mirrors the emotions of the people around her like a psychic, absorbing their energy, reshaping their feelings, then sending them back, twisted just enough to stay in control. She'll convince you she's the only one who truly understands you, until you depend on her, and then she'll use that dependency as proof of your weakness. This is why she's nearly impossible to expose. She doesn't violate social norms. She weaponizes them. And because her image is so pure, no one suspects her darkness until it's too late. Her kindness becomes camouflage. Her sensitivity becomes strategy. And behind that sweet tone and fragile smile, she's already rewriting the story, casting herself as the hero, and you as the ungrateful villain. That's why psychology got it wrong for so long, because it was never looking for a monster that cries. The psychological cost. Inside her mind. Behind every manipulation, every performance of empathy, there's a battlefield she never shows. Inside, the female narcissist lives in constant tension. A war between who she pretends to be and who she fears she is. Her confidence is a costume. Her calm is a mask. And underneath it all lies the same haunting question. What if I'm not enough? That question never fades. It gnaws at her in silence. When the room goes quiet, when the phone stops buzzing, when no one's watching. Because without an audience, there's no self. And that emptiness feels like death. So she fills it with attention, drama, and chaos. Not because she enjoys pain, but because she can't stand stillness. Stillness reminds her of who she really is, a hollow echo trying to sound like a voice. This is the hidden cost of her control, the endless fear of being ordinary, the terror of being unseen. She doesn't just crave admiration, she needs it to exist. That's why her relationships feel like emotional roller coasters. One moment, she idealizes you. You're her soulmate, her savior. The next, you're the villain who ruined everything. It's not because she's calculating. It's because her identity collapses when it's not reflected back at her. Psychologically, this is self-fragmentation, the breaking apart of identity when external validation disappears. She doesn't know where she ends and others begin, so she builds herself from the pieces of those around her. That's why she mirrors. That's why she copies emotions, likes, fears, and dreams. Because without them, she's no one. It's not strength that keeps her manipulative. It's survival instinct. And every act of emotional control is just a desperate attempt to silence that inner voice that whispers, "You're nothing without them." She lives in emotional extremes, ecstatic when admired, destroyed when ignored. Her entire world depends on what others see in her. That's why she can't let go. That's why she always needs more. And the cruel twist? The more she manipulates to feel loved, the less love she's capable of feeling. Because in the end, she doesn't love people. She loves the reflection they give her. And when that reflection fades, so does her sanity. The mirror effect, how it differs from male narcissism. Male and female narcissism come from the same wound, but they wear different masks. He projects power, she projects pain. Both seek control. They just learn different languages to get it. The male narcissist dominates the room. He wants status, admiration, obedience. He feeds on being feared, respected, and envied. His grandiosity is visible, loud, unapologetic, impossible to ignore. The female narcissist moves in silence. Her power hides behind tenderness, empathy, and need. Where he commands, she coaxes. Where he intimidates, she invites. And where he demands love, she makes you feel guilty for not giving it. He says, "You owe me respect." She says, "After everything I've done for you." It's two sides of the same psychological coin, one external, one internal. Psychologists describe this difference as agentic versus communal narcissism. Male narcissism thrives on achievement and dominance, traits society rewards as masculine. Female narcissism thrives on emotional control and social validation, traits society disguises as feminine virtue. That's why she's harder to spot. His arrogance looks toxic, hers looks caring. His manipulation feels threatening, hers feels intimate. But the psychology underneath doesn't change. Both hide deep insecurity. Both depend on others to feel real. And both crumble when admiration disappears. Here's the chilling difference. When a male narcissist loses control, he explodes. When a female narcissist loses control, she implodes. Her rage turns inward first, then spreads outward through guilt, silence, and emotional chaos. She doesn't destroy by force. She destroys by feeling, by making others carry her pain, until no one can tell where her suffering ends and theirs begins. That's why her reflection is so dangerous. She mirrors the world, but the reflection always bends toward her. Every compliment, every act of empathy, every apology you give, it feeds her fragile identity. And when you finally break, she'll look at your collapse and whisper, "See? I was right all along. You're the problem." The male narcissist wants to be admired. The female narcissist wants to be needed. But the result is the same. Both use people as mirrors to hide from the emptiness within. The silent epidemic and conclusion. For years, psychology treated female narcissism like a myth, a rare, misunderstood disorder that didn't fit the textbook. But the truth is far darker. It's not rare. It's hidden. It hides behind smiles, behind kindness, behind the need to be loved and to love too deeply. Female narcissism isn't loud. It's quiet devastation. The kind that happens behind closed doors, in private messages, in emotional conversations that leave you doubting your own mind. Victims don't even realize it's abuse because it doesn't look like control. It looks like care. She'll say she's overreacting because she loves too much. She'll cry when confronted, and you'll find yourself apologizing to the person who hurt you. That's her genius. Emotional camouflage. And society rewards it. We praise empathy, vulnerability, and sensitivity, but never question the motive behind them. That's how this disorder has survived unseen, protected by the very traits we call feminine virtue. But beneath the performance of compassion lies the same psychology of power and fragility, a desperate need to feel superior, a constant fear of being nothing. And the tragedy is this: the female narcissist doesn't know she's doing it. She believes her own story. She believes she's the victim. She believes love means control. That's what makes it so haunting. Because she's not just deceiving others. She's trapped inside her own illusion. A mirror that reflects everything she wants to see, and nothing she really is. So the next time you meet someone who always plays the victim, who needs endless reassurance, who twists empathy into a weapon, look closer. Because what you're seeing might not be sensitivity. It might be survival disguised as love. And maybe the question isn't, how could she do this? Maybe it's, what made her need it so badly? That's where the real story begins. In the next episode, we'll uncover the roots. How parenting, neglect, and emotional conditioning create the making of a female narcissist. The patterns start long before adulthood, and once you see them, you'll never unsee them. Female narcissism is a hidden epidemic that thrives in silence and emotional disguise. It rarely screams for attention. Instead, it whispers through charm, tears, and false care. This form of narcissism weaponizes empathy, turning love into control and vulnerability into manipulation. Unlike the obvious dominance of male narcissism, female narcissism spreads quietly, making it harder to spot and even harder to confront. At the core lies a relentless cycle, fueled by shame, validation, and emotional control. An unending treadmill where affection becomes currency and relationships are battlegrounds for survival. Victims often don't realize they are caught in abuse because it looks like care, not cruelty. Meanwhile, society's praise for empathy and sensitivity shields this behavior from scrutiny. The tragedy is that female narcissists are trapped in their own illusions. They believe their stories, think they are victims, and confuse control with love. This psychological maze destroys not only those around them, but also themselves, as the more they manipulate, the less capable they are of genuine connection. Understanding this silent struggle pushes us to look beyond surface emotions and question what lies beneath. It challenges us to recognize emotional camouflage and seek the truth behind the masks. The story of female narcissism is not just about manipulation, it's about survival, pain, and the desperate, unseen need to be seen.